All right, so I'm here with Stephen Melin. I said your name right, right? I should have asked that before I hit record. I got
No,
it. Awesome. So, you're a composer for media. You have a course. You have a coaching website. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started in composing for games and media, and kind of how you arrived to where you're at today, where you have these multiple kind of income streams?
sure. I think like most composers, I fell in love with video games and with films early on. I have early memories back when I was 5 or 6, just sitting in front of the TV for hours and playing games for hours, and the soundtracks really compelled me, and there was something really special about that. And I started playing piano at around the age of 6. I didn't start taking lessons till 7. And the story behind that was my parents actually heard me. They thought it was another one of my brothers actually practicing piano, but I, by ear, was actually playing their music because I just naturally had this ability to pick up and play what I heard. I had no idea what that meant or what careers would come from that, but all I knew is I really wanted to learn piano because it was this opportunity to get all these tunes in my head that I keep hearing and put them down. And so I took some piano lessons and kind of fast forward several years in middle school time around age 11. I started writing music for the first time in the style of video game music, of course. And I definitely had this draw towards this particular sound and was super inspired by the Legend of Zelda series and the Mario series. Really, Koji Kondo is probably my number one most biggest influence. But then also on the film side of John Williams and the big traditional soundtracks. I wasn't really into film at that time. But basically, just kind of fast forward some more. I had this inclination to want to pick up more instruments, and piano was definitely my number one instrument at the time. But then I wanted to start playing violin because I wanted something that was portable. I wanted to kind of emote in a different way, and because I always heard strings in my favorite scores. And then in high school, I wanted to take that one step further, so I learned how to sing in chorus, and then picked up acoustic guitar because I wanted to just have more options to get these sounds out that were stuck in my head, and I wanted to start recording them. And high school was a really big turning point for me because I had to make that decision of what do I want to do with the rest of my life, particularly with college and that kind of thing. So I decided at that point I wanted to go to college to study piano because I loved performing and it was such a passion for me. And so I studied really hard in those years and eventually went up to Kennesaw State University in Kennesaw, Georgia. And there, during that time period, I was starting to experiment with the recording side. And I was so broke college kid, broke high school kid that I had the cheapest of the cheap PC laptop and Fruity Loops, I think, and just the cheapest of the cheap with notation software and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to learn. I just wanted to experiment. I didn't care. I wasn't looking to make a living out of this. I just wanted to write music and let it sound cool. And so I have these memories of with video game music in particular. That's what I really wanted to get into. So I started experimenting with chip sounds and with these old 8-bit type sounds and electronic sounds and using just the default plugins within Pro Tools and that kind of thing, just experimenting with it. And early college, as I was pursuing piano, I decided, you know what, I really want to learn more about this composition thing. So I started taking composition lessons just as an additional course study, private lessons. And it was really funny because at that time at Kennesaw, they wouldn't let you take composition lessons until you were a junior. And I was a freshman. And I said, I'm going to prove my way. And so I went and wrote a bunch of music.
Everyone knows freshmen can't compose. Come on.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
something magical happens when you hit that junior year where you just get the composer gene, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So who knows what that's all about. But at that time, I was determined, okay, this is my time to make it and to really try this. And so I wrote a bunch of pieces, but they were all video game type pieces. And this is a
That's awesome.
classical academic institution. So right away, I actually did make it into the program. And I don't know if I was the first one to ever get in that young, but they saw that I had some talent in this, but no direction and no guidance whatsoever. So maybe I was a pity project. I don't know. But they took me in, and it was a really interesting experience because for the first time I actually never met a composer in my entire life up until college.
Wow.
And nowadays, when I talk to high school students and to middle school students, they're like, "Oh yeah, I know this person, this person, this person." I mean, this was not that long ago, but still, it's just crazy how much culture has changed and how much composition has actually become a viable career. And the more opportunities that there are through technology, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
And to make an even longer story short, I suppose, throughout college, I decided, hey, oh no, sorry, my video is being lagging, isn't it?
It is. It's frozen, but it's quite all right. It's better now.
Whatever. Just
it's all good. I was just gonna
bug me.
I was gonna use the audio. It's no problem.
That's fine.
Cool.
Cool.
Didn't want to break your flow.
That's cool. That's cool. So in college, I decided, hey, I want to get better at this composition thing, but I still want to learn more instruments. And so I joined the chorus there, the orchestra, and what else did I do? I did small ensembles and started writing for brass and woodwinds and doing these just weird, interesting, experimental type things, seeing how far I could push myself. Also did percussion ensemble for a season because I just wanted to play everything. And I'm super thankful for those experiences because now I have a very strong perspective on how to actually write for those individual instruments and how they work in the big ensembles. I had a cool opportunity at that point to start writing for the very first time for film and video games in actual commercial projects. And those came about a film just through a local friend that I had. He was like, hey, you write music. Why don't you try this? Mm-hmm. I said, okay, I love film. Why not? And so that was actually my first feature film. And that was a cool experience because I actually had no money. And so I didn't even have the gear to do it. I just said, yes, I really want to do this. Mm-hmm. And so I remember starting, I had a feature film and I had this really old version of Pro Tools on my PC laptop. And what an experience, because when I first started, I took the entire film, chopped every scene up into a different movie file, made a separate session for each of the scenes. And I got through about 10 of these scenes using just really bad VSTs. I didn't have anything. It was just like the free junk that you could get.
By the way, I love how you say PC laptop with such contention in your voice. You're just like, oh, back when I had that PC laptop. I completely understand. Oh, it was a PC laptop. Let's just be specific here. Anyway, continue.
Oh, man. So it gave me a lot of heartache looking back, the things I put myself through, the amount of time I spent editing like the videos to throw them in and just to be able to score one little scene. It's pretty remarkable that I finished this movie. But the cool part of this story is I got about 10 scenes in and I said, you know what? I wonder if I were to ask the director, instead of paying me for this job, what if he just buys me the gear I need to actually do it faster? Said, maybe it'll work. And sure enough, it did. And so he actually bought me an iMac. And it's actually the same computer I still use today. So this was back in 2010. Wow. It's on its last leg. It's about to die. And so funny you mentioned the PC thing because I'm actually about to transition to a PC, which is hilarious.
Really?
Because I've gotten so much more into the video game space.
Right.
So much with the PC.
You need it with the hardware and stuff to be able to run that stuff. Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's coming a time where I'll probably have to mix the two worlds a bit more than I already do.
Sure.
But anyway, so that was a big turning point for me where, oh my gosh, someone actually wants to pay me to write music and they're going to pay me a lot. In this case, an entire machine plus better samples and this kind of stuff.
Right.
So I don't know how I negotiated all that, but he probably just felt sorry for me. But at the same time, he probably said, you know what? If he can double the time it takes him, not having to chop up every scene and throw it into Pro Tools on a PC laptop, right?
Sure.
It's just that ended up being a really cool collaboration there, and I actually got to do some more short films with that director. But
well,
around this,
I love how you. I think there's a lesson there. Is just you didn't see dollar signs, but you said, "How can I invest in my business?" Right? Because that is an investment. It's like I don't get the money up front, but I get these tools to make the future productions easier. And I think a lesser man so to speak, might say, "Oh, just give me the cash." You know what I mean? Like I'm strapped for cash. Everyone needs cash, but I think that's cool that you were like, "No, I'm gonna put this right back into the composition business, so to speak." So I think there's definitely a lesson there.
Yeah, and it's funny that at that time, this was about 7 years ago now. At that time, I guess it was funny. I was studying to become a piano performer, a professional performer. Yet I had this idea. You know what? I'm doing this degree, but I'm studying to become a composer. I'm just doing it in a traditional way because there wasn't a composition program at the school. So I was kind of doing it the best way I knew how, becoming the best pianist I could, so that I could later turn those skills into composing, which has actually benefited me greatly in the arranging world as well. It's just funny how it all comes full circle. Frozen.
Yeah, I was just about to type that to you. No, no worries, no worries.
You're gonna have to piecemeal this whole thing.
No problem, man.
Next time, I have some other software I'll recommend for video chats.
Cool.
But anyway, have you even answered the question yet? Probably not.
You have, yeah. No, the question was just kind of how you got interested in music, but also just how you got to the point where you are now, where it's like your full time thing. And I think that gateway of having that friend was like a key milestone in your career. Of this guy's given me a chance, and I'm being prudent with the money that he's giving me by investing that back into the composing business. I would love to hear about, fast forward almost to today, of like, okay, you have all these different arms of your musical presence. You have your coaching, you have obviously your freelance composition, you have your course on Udemy, which is awesome. And so how did you get to that point? Like, obviously it seems to me when I look at your stuff that you have some business knowledge. It could just be from, like, School of Hard Knocks, which is often the best place to learn business stuff. But I'm interested to know kind of how you make a living doing all of those things.
Great question. Honestly, where I am today is a result of necessity. It's a result of me going really hardcore after one avenue and realizing that at that point in time, I couldn't make enough to be fully sustainable. And then I tried a different route. And then once I tried the second route, I'd come to the same conclusion, but then realize, oh, wait, there's still projects, there's still clients, there's still passion to do the first thing. And then before you know it, you have 10 income streams just based on passive material, being courses and things where I create a material, or stock music libraries where I'm selling music and it's passive. I do it once and it's done. And those are little checks that come in every month.
Sure.
Royalties, etc. But then on the other side, I have this deep passion to write music, but I also love arranging music. I love performing music, and then I love teaching music. And so it's this whole package, really. And the more I talk with other composers in the industry, it's really become the standard now to wear so many hats.
Yeah.
My business sense is all just a matter of research and study, to be honest. I'm a big proponent of reading books. I talk about that a lot, of how in society right now, we have this idea that you can learn everything from videos. And I love videos, and I think it's very useful. But it's important to read. It's important to learn the exact subjects you need to from masters.
Absolutely.
I've proven it. And like you mentioned, I can teach my own personal business experience, but at the end of the day, it's only my experience, and it's my limited experience that worked for me. And some of it's applicable for other people, but ultimately you're gonna have to pave your own path in this industry if you're gonna do entertainment, because technology improves so fast and is moving so fast that the advice I give today is completely different than 5 years ago, because of everything has changed. So it's exciting, but it's also terrifying.
Sure. Have you read Deep Work by Cal Newport?
I haven't.
I feel like you would really enjoy that book. Deep Work by Cal Newport is it's a book all about how in today's society, the ability to do undistracted, concentrated work for long periods of time is like a superpower. And he basically says more so than skill, more so than your ability, more so than even talent. It's so hard for people to do undistracted work today because of the connected world we live in. He sort of contrasts it with shallow work, where it's like checking email, doing your budget, filling out expense reports. This is things that you could do while you have a show on in the background. But he says deep work, which is the real work that moves the needle forward for you. And that could be like composing, that could be writing, all these sorts of things, is work that's done in solitude and it's done with intense concentration. And I think that's really cool. That kind of speaks to the reading ethic that you were talking about earlier. So, man, this is crazy. So, where did, like, for me, for example, or just someone in my position where I don't really have any musical income streams right now. Where do you start? Where do you work on first? Because certain things you make money, and then you put that money towards more things that help you do other musical things, and it's hard to know. You mentioned you go down an avenue, you realize, okay, this is not sustainable. Come back, try another avenue. Yet it's almost like you leave your flag or your mark in each of these avenues, where it's like, okay, still have some teaching clients, still have some coaching clients, still, etc. So where do you start? Like, which of those avenues, in hindsight, do you recommend starting with?
I think it completely depends on your end goal.
Okay.
But I think if I would make a general sweeping statement, I'd say if possible, get the passive I can't even say it, passive income streams coming first.
Right.
That would be your music libraries. So if you want to be a composer, start writing music. You should already have a portfolio that you're sharing somewhere, either on YouTube or your website or SoundCloud, whatever. Sell that music, license it. Yeah. There are thousands of TV shows and thousands of radio broadcasts and podcasts and YouTube videos, whatever. There are so many opportunities now to just get your music that literally you don't have to do anything. You just put it somewhere. If you don't want to sell it yourself, you can give a portion of that cut to a company that will.
What are some resources that you'd recommend for like monetization of your original works?
Audio Jungle is my favorite company for that. Especially if you go exclusive with them, you'll actually get a higher percentage. And what's cool with them is the more sales you get, the higher your percent climbs, because you're making them more money, so they're going to make you more money. And their marketing is just brilliant. And search engine is brilliant. Yeah. It's an Australian-based company, Envato, and they have several sub companies like Theme Forest or Video Hive. So content creators go there. And I've talked at length with video creators and bumper video creators, and I've done a lot of custom work for those types of films, short, etc. But those people, 99% of the time, they can't afford a composer.
Yeah.
And that's okay. We shouldn't be offended by that. We just need to understand that we're not going to be the person they're going to come to every time. When they can spend $5, they can spend 15 or 20 bucks on a track you've already written. So what I like to do is, as you're becoming friends with these directors and with these filmmakers, have a spot on your website, or give them, instead of giving a business card with your information, give them some free royalty tracks. Give them some, just opportunities. They want to use your work. They love your style. So why not give them links to your database, to your music? And what's cool about Audio Jungle in particular is they have a referral program that if you send a link, you'll actually get more of the percent than if Audio Jungle was to sell that for you. And there's other websites like that.
Yeah.
That's the principle, though.
I'm a huge fan of Audio Jungle and the whole Envato thing. It's funny that they're Australian, because I know the little audio watermark is like Envato. Yeah. And so I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Australian.
AudioJungle.net or whatever it is.
Yeah. That's funny, man. So for you put this stuff on. We can pivot here in a second, but I'm really curious. You put this stuff on Audio Jungle. To me, it just seems so daunting because there's a lot of stuff on there to be found. What are some ways that you can you put your stuff on there and just kind of prevent against getting buried and all the other stuff?
Yeah,
I mean, that's probably a tough code to crack, but if you've had,
I've had that problem a lot, and I've been with them, I think, for 7 or 8 years. That's actually my very first income from music. is from Audio Jungle.
Wow.
And it has been about the same dollar amount every month since the beginning,
Okay.
which is very odd. You'd think that it would increase with time,
Yeah.
but, and I'll be completely honest, because my mindset is I don't want to curate it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to spend hours and hours and hours. Perhaps if I hire an assistant one day, that would be one of their tasks. And I've really thought about that. Maybe that would pay for itself, you know?
Right.
But the idea with any marketplace is there comes a point where it becomes flooded. It becomes oversaturated with bad content, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of good content in there. They have really high quality standards that you have to meet to even get your music in there.
Right.
So to not be buried, yes, you have to spend some time. So about 1 hour every 2 or 3 months. That's it. I will go through and I will remove anything that's not relevant anymore. Okay. Anything that sounds too dated. And then I'll add another 5 or so tracks.
Gotcha.
So I basically keep something between a 60 to 80 track catalog at all times. Mm-hmm. I'm slowly updating it with my best work that is sellable in that format. Because in order to sell your music in those places, it can't be music you've written for other projects. Mm-hmm. It has to be, in my case, because I want the higher percentage, it's exclusive music. So it just means I'm not selling that music anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And so I do write for other libraries that are specifically for TV and for promos and for that kind of thing, movie trailers. So I can't use that music. Mm-hmm. So I have to actually write dedicated music. So it's just another time thing of making sure you put the time aside. But starting off, if you don't want to be buried, then you need to have at least 20 plus tracks.
Wow. How often, what is your typical track per month, track per week? Like how often are you composing new music?
For stock music or just in general?
For stock music, and then we can go to in general.
Yeah. Stock music, not very much. Mm-hmm. Not because it's not a good income stream, but because you have to be unbelievably dedicated to being one of the top 1%.
Gotcha.
It's an interesting business model where the people, it makes sense. The people who put the most time into it get the best return, mm-hmm. but it's exponential return, not a logarithmic return. So it's not like, I put 20 tracks, I should get $20. Mm-hmm. No, it's like you put 1,000 tracks, you get $1 million.
Right.
It's like it's not a 1-to-1 ratio whatsoever. Yeah. So the people who are on top, they dominate. It's like the same 5 people every month because there's a lot of cross-pollination going on, mm-hmm. where the Video Hive, for example, those creators, they'll come in, they'll create videos, and then they want to actually use music on their demo products. So they'll use the tracks with the, Envato, with the watermark on it, and they'll just go and borrow it from one of the top 5 guys because they know they're the top 5 guys.
Sure.
It's a self perpetuating business for them, which is great.
Totally get it.
But you have to be 100% sold out. So I've looked into those authors, and all of them, maybe with the exception of 1 or 2, they're full-time Audio Jungle authors.
Wow.
This is what they do. They write music. They write another 1 or 2 tracks every day.
Wow. That's kind of like a full-time like YouTube creator. That's like when you start becoming that, you have to make videos either daily or every other day. It's like your full-time gig.
It's absolutely like that. And so there have been seasons of my life where I don't have as much work coming from the other avenues. So yeah, I'll sit down for a month and I'll write 20 new tracks.
Wow.
That's very possible. And that's what I love about the music industry is there are literally opportunities everywhere, mm-hmm. and it costs you nothing. Mm-hmm. Just grab an instrument and play something. It's that simple. And what happens is you get used to the formula after a certain time of what video creators actually need for their mm-hmm. projects. And you get really good at creating multiple versions of the same track that was usable. And that's probably the biggest trap I fell into early on because I wrote great music and, I had my ego and I thought, but why isn't anybody buying it? This would work perfectly in this video. Right. But I started to work more and more in the film industry and commercial industry. I learned more that you don't want your music to overpower the vocals or like dialogue. You don't want your the melody to be so in your face. Mm-hmm. for certain types of music. So as I got more into the advertising side of things, I learned, oh, wait, you really can just do basic pop chords with a happy jingle and some whistles and a little guitar,
Right.
a little mandolin. There are certain stereotypes for a reason. So
Ukulele.
yeah. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed for my other projects, um, it's good every once in a while, maybe once a month or so, just to take a day off and just to write stock music, because there's something really releasing about it. If I have a bunch of bent up creativity that I need to get out, and I can just make some stuff that I know fits within a nice little shiny formula that's
Right.
30 seconds or a minute long,
Sure.
and you can feel really productive on those days that you don't like the whole writer's block deal. I think it's real, but I think there are a lot of creative and productive ways to use your time.
Definitely.
You're feeling like, I don't know how to write this one piece of music for this one important theme. Okay, then just go write a bunch of stock music. You'll get some creativity out. And more than
Absolutely.
likely, while doing something else anyway that is productive, you're going to kind of refresh yourself and be ready for the actual project.
Absolutely. I'm curious. So you, just to conclude, you would recommend get the passive income streams up if possible. Like, let's say I want to be in your position, which, spoiler alert, I kind of do, because it seems like you got it made. Not to say you don't work your butt off, which I'm sure you do, but I would love to be making music full time like you're doing. So you would recommend the Audio Jungle, because what I've done is I've done a lot of I play acoustic guitar and sing, and piano as well. So I've done a lot of weddings. I watched your video about income streams, and you talked about get weddings, parties, gigs, stuff like that. That has honestly been my biggest income stream, but I recognize that it's not scalable. Like, I'm still trading time for dollars, which
Yes.
I could tell you know a little bit about business and passive income, so I can talk this language with you. Is eventually that gets to a point where it becomes a dead end, like you said. So just to reiterate, you would say attack the passive income streams if possible, and Audio Jungle is a good route to do that.
Yes, that would be the starting point. And what's so cool about being a musician in general is you're always making music.
Sure.
So as long as you're always capturing through video or through audio recordings, you can always sell them in some way. Monetize everything you can, and it becomes a passive income stream that's usable, and it funds you to either free up your time to do more things that you want to do, or it just pays the way for the new gear that you need to do those. But I think on the other side of passive income is education. And I think more so than ever in the history of the world, let alone America, education is actually I believe the second biggest industry in the world.
Wow.
So it's where everyone puts their money. So having a course,
Yes.
having a PDF that people can buy, having an ebook, having podcast, having whatever, right? Having something that is tangible, that is a product that people can buy from an e-store, an online store, where you don't have to do anything after the first initial product launch. You have to maybe maintain it like an hour a year, something very, very minimal,
Right.
but very scalable. And
Yes.
so one of my big passion projects right now through Udemy, I'm working on my second course, which is geared specifically towards video game music instead of video games, TV, and film. And it goes a lot deeper because a lot of students have been asking to go deeper, saying that basics were not enough. So here I am. The market is screaming for more and willing to pay for it. And that is extremely scalable.
Yes.
And it takes, 3 to 5 months to actually make one of these courses. It's a huge amount of time investment,
Absolutely.
but once, and it pays for itself, not just for a year, but literally forever.
Yep.
Until that technology ceases to exist or that knowledge is no longer valuable. So that's, if there's any way that you have a specialization in education, and it could be, as a musician, it could be your instrument, it could be your particular spin on how to teach that instrument or how to learn music. There's so many cool ways
Yeah.
that you can still monetize it. And I think that is even more scalable than the music side because of the oversaturation.
Do you ever struggle with imposter syndrome? Do you know what that is?
I've heard of that. What do you mean by that?
So I struggle with this a lot, man, because there are so many ideas that I have for making a course or making something monetizable, but there's this deep fear. So what imposter syndrome is It is this idea that you're going to be exposed as a fraud, that you do not know what you're doing. And apparently, I've done research on this. CEOs struggle with this. Famous actors, Tom Hanks struggles with this, where he seriously thinks that he's not good enough every time he starts a movie. And he's just like, I'm just going to get exposed. And I can't help but think there's this fear, right? And this goes deeper than just any particular skill. It's like a deeper fear that I didn't go to music school, so I'm going to be exposed as, oh no, you said this wrong. It's a flat 7. It's not a 7. You're a liar and a fraud. You should go die. You know, that kind of thing. There's this sense of that people are going to expose you as a fraud, even if it's all in your head. And that, you know, and I to be honest, that stopped me from doing a lot of courses, stuff, pursuing business that I want to do in the music industry. So I'm just curious if you ever struggle with that, or maybe how you overcome that. And if you haven't struggled with it, do you think it's possible for someone who, like me, hasn't gone to music school to do something like this, and how you might overcome those fears?
Absolutely. I believe it's real. I've seen it in others. I've seen fear stop people from doing what they could do and be successful at. I think ultimately there's a line that has to be drawn between sharing from your own experience and perspective and being authentic and honest about where you actually are, and acknowledging that there are always people that are better than you, more talented than you, more experienced than you, but don't let that stop you from sharing where you are. Mm-hmm. And that's what I see stops people, is perhaps you didn't go to music school, or you didn't have the best training, you didn't have the official education, whatever. You don't have the best gear, so you feel like you're inadequate to share from your experiences. But ultimately, look at YouTube. We keep talking about it, how the reason it's blown up is because it's authentic. It's just people being real about their life experience. And I think the reason that my course has been so successful so far is not because I know everything. It's just because it's my particular presentation on the knowledge that I've acquired. It's the path that I've carved. It doesn't make it the right way or the way that anyone else can even duplicate, to be honest. But ultimately, I think the most valuable thing is for us to share exactly, to be authentic and honest with where we've come from and where we are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've heard it said that there's, when it comes to content creation, there's the Gandalf, which is sort of and for the Tolkien references, there's the Gandalf that is, I'm the master, I've seen it all, and I'm now imparting my wisdom to you, right? And that would be like probably the Rick Beato, right? You know, the dude's he's been in the industry for so long, and he's got the authority to speak on these things with authority. And of course, we disagree on certain points, but that's the beauty of you know, the internet and whatnot. And then there's the other thing, which is Frodo, right? Which is kind of like, I'm on this journey with you, you know. And I think that to me has been the most helpful, just reminding myself, hey, I'm not trying to be Gandalf here. I'm trying to be Frodo. I'm trying to tell these people, hey, this is where I'm at. You know, let me show you what I've learned, and maybe you can come along this journey with me, kind of thing. I'm really interested to know about your process. Well, I'm interested in many things. I want to know about your process for creating this course. I want to know, like, logistically, how did you do it? Did you always know you wanted to do a course? Was there a demand from your audience to do a course? Did you build an audience first, or did the audience come after? And kind of, was it, how have the numbers been? How's the success been? Is it greater than your expectations, less? I'm just super curious about all these things.
Yeah. Course creation was something I never sought out to do. Rather, it was about 2 years ago when I was in a bit of a drought, so to speak, musically. It was right in the middle of the summer, which traditionally is when there's not a lot of projects. People are on vacations. They're taking hiatus from their own film production or game production. And I was in this 2 or 3 month span where I was almost broke. It was crazy. I had such a successful year so far, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And I see that trend a lot. And the more and the longer I'm in this industry, the more I realize you have to start planning more annually instead of month by month. Anyone who lives paycheck to paycheck, it's not a great system, because there will come a day where you don't get a paycheck.
Right.
There's some months it's famine and feast.
Especially in the freelance world. If you're
going to be an entrepreneur, you have to get used to that idea of saving and planning ahead instead of relying on the momentary. But the whole course idea, it came from this. I I don't want to say desperation, but this almost this fire, this fuel that I gotta find work. And if I can't find it right now, if people aren't reaching out right now, then I have to make something. I have to do something.
Yeah.
And that's about the time that I was really getting, just learning a lot from business about passive income streams and what that looks like, and how useful that can be in building this this foundation to go from, to help you in other ways. So during that time, I just started researching and found these stats about education being such a hot item. And it's funny because I found Udemy, which, for those who aren't aware with that, it's Academy with a U, U-D-Y. And it's a website that's geared towards course creation. But what was special about it is it's long form courses. So it's like 50 videos, 100 videos. It's 5+ hours worth of content. And I had been up to this point already doing a lot of YouTube videos, instructional things on music business and music creation and composition. So I figured, you know what? I wonder if I could polish this up a bit and package it a little bit differently, if there's more audience for this.
Yeah.
And with any good business idea, you should always look at where the need is and look at the demand is, not just if it's a good idea or not. It really has to be something that monetarily it's something that's going to work. So I started looking into it, and then I realized there is no competition. Why is there no course on this? This is something that 10 years ago, when I was in high school trying to learn this stuff, this would have changed my life. It's been unbelievably useful.
Yeah.
I had to go to college to ask an academic classical professor how to write music, how to write for film. He had no idea. He taught me a lot of stuff about composition, but he even admitted, he's like, I know nothing about film. I know nothing about games. I had to go get a master's in not even film scoring, but technically music composition for the screen, which was film, TV, and games. I had to go to that level of education and move to a different city and all this, pay a lot of money to get education, to get little snippets from mentors and from masters. And then one more step, I had to move out to LA for a very small period of time as part of that school program, just for the summer. Got to work with some of my heroes in the game industry, and just picking their brains and having great conversations with them is kind of this whole culmination of all this knowledge it took me 10 years to get by just working my butt off to learn. And now I'm trying to package this all into one little course. So that was kind of the motivation, as I had all this knowledge that that was the question, what if this is available to more people? What could this do, not only for the industry, but for the individuals who have absolutely no access to this? Because if you look online, even on YouTube, the information is incredibly small, and most of it is not accurate, or it's not presented in a way that's actually engaging or interesting or helpful.
And it's scattered all over the place. It's like that's another appeal of courses is, for me, I've taken lots of online courses, and it's like, could I do a bunch of research and find all this? Probably, but I'm paying you to do that. That kind of thing. Like, I want all this in one spot so that I can just like I have a roadmap to success, kind of thing. Now, I think that's really cool. This is all so inspiring. Did you have an audience, like an email list or a Facebook following, before you launched the course, or did you launch the course and the audience kind of came to you after that?
A little bit of both. Okay. More so second side. I had a small email list at that time, small Facebook following, etc.
How many people, if you don't mind me asking, on your email list?
Really, really low numbers, less than 100.
Gotcha.
Very low numbers. And so even there's some fun stats about email these days. I think it's something like a 5% or 10% click-through rate now for the most avid of email marketers who do it every day. So even if I had 100 people, one technically, between 5 and 10 or whatever, may have even clicked it, let alone it. Yeah, right. So maybe 1 or 2 came from that, a few from word of mouth. So when I started, I maybe got like 5 sales, 10 sales.
Gotcha.
And so at the very beginning, I was actually still happy about it, because like, wow, someone actually wants to pay me to learn this stuff.
Yeah. I bet you that first sale was such a great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually they were, some of my piano students that wanted to do it.
That's really cool.
My private lessons, because they were interested in composition, and I'm like, hey, this is perfect. And that's actually that's another reason that I created this course and started to do more courses. People have a lot of questions, and I love teaching, but I hate answering the same question over and over and over again, and not having a database, not having a resource that's like the definitive.
You point them right there, and they anybody who learns, or anybody who asks can learn right there.
Yeah. So Udemy is actually, I keep giving them praise, and they need to be praised, and more people need to check them out because it's pretty incredible what they're doing. They are actually on par with Google as far as search results go. The reason I chose them versus some of the other, like Teachable and some of the other online platforms, they have the same search ranking as YouTube and as Google. So what that means is if you type in any of the keywords for a Udemy course, it will be number one on Google when you search.
Wow.
And
so they're highly optimized for search.
And if you get extremely smart and you already have a YouTube following, as I do, start putting preview videos of your Udemy. And that way, when they search Google, they'll see the Udemy course, they'll see the YouTube, and then they'll see your website.
Wow.
So type in any combo of the words. And if you get really, really smart and you do just a little bit of SEO, search engine optimization, you can actually go to Udemy and open up an incognito window within Chrome or Safari, whatever, and you can actually start you can start slowly typing in key letters and key words, and it'll show you all the search results of what comes up. And so you can do that with your videos, and that's why the course we're talking about it has the lamest title of all time: Film, TV, and Video Game Music Composition and Production Basics. It's super SEO, but it works. And so far, the success of it has been beyond my wildest dreams. And it's continuing to climb exponentially, not logarithmic. So it's not a one-to-one. I think yesterday I got something like 20-something new students.
That's awesome.
It's like it increases every single day. And it's been a pretty wild ride. And so I know that there's a demand now. People are asking for something beyond the basic level. I wanted to just get people introduced to the idea. And I've learned so much throughout the process because it's been, I knew nothing about course creation. I knew how to teach. I know how to captivate an audience, but with resources, with like tangible products, it's a completely different story. It needs to be really high quality. And I'll be honest that I'm really happy with my first course, but looking back on it now, almost 2 years later, there's a very clear quality difference of what I am now capable of doing. And now I know the process. And I know how the whole thing works. So now I know that my next course is going to be significantly better. And I'm hoping we'll have more of a, cross-pollination effect, which is what you should do with your products and services. They should always cross-pollinate. So if someone comes to my website looking for, they're looking for a composer for their video game, but they really needed an arranger, and then their sister's having a wedding next week. Oh wow, he also performs. Oh, he also sells music. Oh hey, I actually only have a $10 budget. What if I just go to his Audio Jungle and buy a license chip? I can't tell you the number of times that people have come to me for one thing and left a completely different way.
Wow.
Or they find me in the weirdest ways. But that's why, if I were to summarize the whole business aspect, there's a lot of topics, obviously, but the number one thing I like to recommend is to have one unified presence in your online, just the way that you are perceived. So if someone sees you on Instagram, it should be geared towards Instagram, and it should have the content and the media. Gary Vaynerchuk, if you've read his books, he's really big on this idea of really making your content speak, micro content that speaks to the platform itself.
Right.
So if someone finds you on Instagram, which real life example, a couple months ago, a brass duo. So two brass players who play video game music, they found me on Instagram and they said, we really like your stuff. And what do I post on Instagram? Like me playing piano and me arranging things, right? Arranging heavy, actually. So people see me on there, and then they said, hey, we're doing a live performance. We're doing these kind of things. Can you take your arranging chops and mix it with your composition? And can you write us some specialized video game music using electronica, doing these remix kind of things? So now I have a project doing that, a really big project, which has been a cool thing, been working on for several months.
That's awesome.
From Instagram, you know? But on the other side, people find me through YouTube, more instructional videos, and they might find me there and realize, oh, he writes music. So now they hire me for that. And then finding me through Google, just through website, just SEO kind of stuff, and then Facebook if they're looking maybe on the performing side. So to sum it up, it's important that if you're going to do multiple things like this and have multiple income streams, then you need to make sure that you have a funnel effect where you have one place, it should be your website, one place that pulls like a magnet, all of the little, the arms, so to speak, they all pull back to one place, so that when they finally visit there, they should leave basically buying something, or they should leave taking the next step of asking the questions because they now see what all you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're totally speaking my language with funnels, because in marketing, that's kind of all we talk about. You know, we talk about the interest funnel, kind of the we call it the educate funnel, where they're wanting to know a little bit more about you, and then the action funnel where they buy something eventually. So it's all about funnels. Life is just funnels. I could talk about that for a while, but we're creeping up here on it's almost your hard stop. I want to ask you, with all these things, how do you calendar your week? I mean, I imagine you must have to be really disciplined.
Yep. And I, growing up, hated calendars. I hated schedules, and I have become a type A person out of necessity.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of reminders and a big fan of notes. So Evernote is my favorite app, and Wunderlist is my favorite app. I use these on all devices at any point in the day. So if I have a thought that pops into my head, I write it down. If it's a musical idea, I write it down. Voice memos is also a really good one.
Love voice memos. Best app ever.
Love it. Evernote is so clever because you can sort your notes by folders. And so I have my schedule in there. I have a calendar app. I have anything to be organized, honestly. So in my brain, I think of the calendar as like my macro map. So what I tried to do is only have basically one big project at a time that is on a calendar date.
Gotcha.
I might have smaller projects that I will actually work on in the meantime, but I set very, very hard deadlines for myself so that if I accidentally go beyond that point, no one gets affected. So if I have a project that, like right now, I have with the brass duo, I have a track that is due December 29th. And I'll probably have it done next week, because I set the worst case scenario in all of my calendar. My deadlines, I always do worst case scenario. I don't get to it for weeks because everything else gets behind, and that way I'm always over delivering and never promising.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of telling people what my hard deadline is, and I never get pushback on that. Actually, it has actually only allowed time for more projects and for more work. So I always push things out about twice the distance I think it'll actually take me, because most people are terrible with time, and creators are the worst with time.
Yes, we are.
Sometimes we want to try multiple variations of something instead of just doing it once. So you should never quote someone for time that takes you one. Quote for 3, quote for 4.
Sure.
And then
you have to add 20%.
Yeah. Oh, I would add 50% at least.
Yeah.
You have to cushion for that time. So that's like the macro view, and then the micro view for me, I schedule every day in advance. An unplanned day is an unproductive day. There's no such thing as a day that you can, like, who goes to work and doesn't know what they're going to do?
A lot of people, and they don't get anything done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't waste time. I hate wasting time. I love to play. I love to relax, and I love family. I love hanging out with people, but I also love to work, and I don't like wasting time. So I literally have every hour of every day scheduled.
That's awesome.
It sounds ridiculous, but if you talk to CEOs, you talk to really successful business people, they have every minute scheduled. I have every minute of relaxation planned. I have every minute of sleeping planned, of exercise planned, of eating planned. And it sounds ridiculous, but it's amazing just how much time there actually is if you just write it down.
Yeah.
And it puts everything in its proper place. So whenever I get a new project, I always look at my schedule and I immediately put it on a date. Immediately put it within a certain block of time. Because priorities, we like to throw out that word in our culture. That word is really reflected in what your schedule says.
Sure. That's absolutely true.
If it's not on your calendar, it's not a priority to you. So if I tell my clients I will have this done by X date, I want to over deliver. I'm actually going to make my own dates much sooner.
Right.
So you can always be on top of that, and that's how you get happy clients that they want to work with you because they know you're going to over deliver. And it just makes them really happy.
This has been such an inspiring talk, man, for me personally, and I guarantee anyone who watches this. It's 9:58. I want to be respectful. Do you have any final closing thoughts for someone who wants to be in your position doing multiple things in music to make it full time?
Work hard, be a person of integrity who work on the projects you want to work on. It's okay to be selective. It's okay to say no. Early in my career, I said no to nothing, and it destroyed my life. It took several years of me learning to say no. That's when you get a really healthy balance, and people respect you more, and they will respect your time more. And so it's okay to be choosy. And I think with these, income passive streams, it's a great way to allow yourself to be able to say no more because you don't need it. People say yes to everything when they need everything.
Right.
But if you want to carve a clear path that leads you to where you want to go, set the goal, and then work. It's like building the Great Wall of China, right? You do a little bit every day.
Sure.
So I believe in setting big goals, dream big, but then back it up and actually put an action plan in place. So if you're going to make a course, set the due date, put it 6 months from now, and then carve it up and look at your weeks and look at, okay, I'm going to put 3 hours a day and find what the smallest unit of measurement is and then be proactive on that. I think the more that you start practicing that, there will be days where you fail. So don't do anything unrealistic. If you know you can't do 3 hours a day, then maybe put an hour a day or put an hour every other day. Work within your own limitations. But I think that's how we increase our capacity to do more and to do more intentionally is a result of good planning.
That is fantastic, man. Thank you so much for letting me interview you. This is going to be so valuable to everyone who watches, me included, me most of all. And yeah, man, I'll be looking forward to your YouTube video. And once I get my Christmas bonus, I'm buying your course.
I appreciate it, man.
All
Well,
right,
you have
man.
a wonderful day. Thanks for taking the time.
You got it. Thanks, bud.
Look forward to seeing it. All right, bye.